Thanks for attending the meeting this morning. Warm welcome to all of you. My name is Abdul Qayyum, Councillor for Firth Park, and I'm the chair of this licensing subcommittee. And before I ask other councillors to introduce themselves, can I hand over to Democratic Services to read out the housekeeping arrangements, please, Claire?
Thank you, Chair. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please take instruction from staff and stewards. The assembly point is at Tudor Square. Please can I request everyone switch mobile devices to silent so as to not to disturb the conduct of the meeting. The meeting today will be webcast and the recording will also be available to people to view later through the Council's website. It is also possible that Sheffield Live TV will record and rebroadcast the meeting. While ever the meeting is open to the public, photography, video and sound recording of the proceedings is permitted. However, the Chair has discretion to withdraw or suspend this permission. For example, if the recording is disrupting the conduct of the meeting or is being undertaken in a manner which could capture personal information, or in the event that a member of the public participating in the meeting objects to being recorded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any apologies for absence?
No, Chair.
No. Any exclusions of public and press? No. Any declarations of interest, colleagues? No. Okay, I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. Councillor Whittaker.
Yes, Councillor Mark Whittaker, Councillor for Stocksbridge and Upper Don. Thank you.
Robert.
Councillor Rob Rice, Councillor for East Ecclesfield. I do apologise, I'm slightly ill this morning, so my voice might not be the most clear, but I'll try my hardest.
Sam.
Morning, Samantha Bond, Legal Advisor to the Subcommittee.
Jane.
I'm Jane Goff, I'm licensing and I'm here to read the report this morning.
Claire. Claire.
Sorry, Chair. Claire Cummins, I'm taking the minutes this morning. Good morning.
Okay, and the applicants, you just want to introduce yourselves, please?
Good morning, Chair. My name is Nagar Rajesh. I'm a licensing consultant. I'm representing my clients today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janice Pradeep Kumar.
My name is Rohini Somasundarlingam.
Yeah, my name is Rasa Yabrabaran, my partner.
Thank you. And we have public.
Hi, my name is Amanda Pickard. I'm Public Health Principal for Sheffield City Council, also similar to Councillor Rice. I'm suffering a bit today, so forgive me if my throat's a bit scratchy.
Okay, just going to ask our legal advisor to outline the procedure to be followed this morning. Sam?
Thank you, Chair. Has everyone got a copy of the papers that needs them? Do you guys want a copy of the papers? I think you've had some email, but we've got a hard copy if you need it. So the procedure's right on the back of the pack, page 56. I'll just run through it. It sounds and looks a lot worse than it is. Hopefully it'll make sense once we actually get started. So the licensing officer, who's Jane this morning, will introduce the report. If there are any questions on the report, we can raise them then. So if anything's changed or anything needs amending, anything like that. We'll then turn to the representatives for the responsible authority. So Public Health will detail their relevant representations first. Members will ask them questions, and with the leave of the chair, you guys and your representative may also ask Amanda some questions as well. We'll then head over to the applicant and their representative to detail the application, provide any clarification on it and respond to the representations made. So obviously we've got some written representations from residents in the report who haven't attended today, so if those can be addressed in submissions as well and address anything from Public Health, that would be really helpful. Again, members and officers can ask the applicant and their representative some questions, and with the leave of the chair, Public Health may also ask questions as well. The applicant will be given the opportunity to sum up the application and will then take the options as detailed in the report from Jane. Members will then go into private session to take legal advice and consider the application, so you are welcome to wait around this morning and we can give you that decision a little bit later on. The decision of the Licensing Committee will be given in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 and regulations made thereunder. At any time during the hearing, members can request legal advice, so we can do it in open session as we are now, or private, where we would just ask you guys in the room to wait next door, and for you, so we'll just pause the recording and then we'll invite everybody back in and feedback what that was. And as we've already covered, the hearing is public this morning, which means it's live webcast and recorded. If at any point we determine that that should stop, we'll address that as and when we get to it, but I don't foresee there being any issues with that. And that is everything from me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we have the report then, please, Jane?
You certainly can. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning to determine the contested variation application for Broomhill Convenience Store of 488 Glossop Road. The variation application was submitted to the licensing service on the 19th of December, and the application is sought to extend their opening hours and alcohol licensed hours to 7 till 1. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. The current times are 7 till 1, 7 days a week. The proposed alcohol consumption off the premises is 7 till 3. So it's an extension of 2 hours, 7 days a week. The application is attached to Appendix A. The current premises licence is attached to Appendix B, I beg my pardon. So we're here today as we've had some outstanding unresolved representations from Public Health, who is here today. Councillor Brian Holmeshaw is the Green Party for Broomhill and Sheffield, who can't attend today, and also 3 other local residents who also can't attend today. There have been no other conditions offered by the applicant and none agreed with the responsible authorities, so there's nothing further in that sense. And everything, all invites and everything is Appendix D of the report. So I'll just scoot down to Section 8, the appeals section, which states that the Licensing Act 2003, Section 181 and Schedule 5 makes provision for appeals to be made by the applicant and those making representations against decisions of the licensing authority to the Magistrates' Court. So the recommendations this morning, Chair, is that members carefully consider the representations that have been made and take such steps as the subcommittee consider appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're okay with that? Any questions on that report? Anyone? We're okay? Right. In that case, I'm going to go on to the representations, and first is the Responsible Authority, Public Health. Amanda.
Thank you. Just to provide a little bit of context as to why Public Health were interested in making representation against this application. We know that alcohol environment drives patterns of drinking. We know that alcohol harms and inequalities are rising nationally, but also across the city. Alcohol admissions for alcohol-related conditions are at the highest since records began in 2016. Ambulance services are also experiencing some of the highest stresses that they've ever experienced. We've had increased call-outs generally, but also specifically around alcohol-related call-outs. And we have particular additional stresses on clinical staff. So studies recently showed that alcohol-related ambulance call-outs have a particular impact on those clinical staff attending where people are under the influence of alcohol. There's consistent evidence that increasing availability and late-night sales linked to alcohol consumption. So off-trade is a key driver of alcohol harm. And especially in later night sales. And there's very clear evidence that later night sales have the most harm in terms of alcohol. People are much more likely to make unplanned and impulsive purchases of alcohol in off licenses. So coming to this particular location, I think it's reasonable to assume that the majority footfall in the hours are going to be people exiting pubs, bars and seeking taxi ranks on Peel Street, and returning home from the city centre, which represent higher risk for more impulsive, higher risk purchases. Excuse me. And also that Broomhill is predominantly a residential area. Taxi ranks, there are taxi ranks located on Peel Street that operate till 6 a.m. in the morning, and evidence consistently shows, evidence shows that taxi ranks are considered a flashpoint for people under the influence of alcohol, and therefore poses a potential to driver safety. Relatively to the rest of Broomhill, that particular area of 100 metres around the premises already suffers from a high level of alcohol-associated crime, so antisocial behaviour, violent and sexual assault in that 100 metres around where the premises are, and that comes from South Yorkshire reported crimes. Between November 2024 and October 25, over a period of a year, there were around 22 reports of antisocial behaviour and 40 reports of violence and sexual assault. The latter category was particularly focused in and around that Peel Street taxi rank area. I'd also like to highlight that the Broomhill Neighbourhood Plan also has a Broomhill District Centre policy that states that whilst the district centre should be encouraged to remain vibrant, it should not be over-intensified with uses that harm health or residential amenity. And that policy is in place until 2036. The Foxton, there's several premises that are already licensed till 1 a.m. in the area, so on premises such as the Fox and Duck and the Nottingham House on Fulwood Road. And we feel that the 1 a.m. limit should be maintained for the area. I understand there was the granting of the Post Office 24-hour licence, I think it was summer 2025, and I'm sure members will remember the concern that was raised around the granting of that licence, and there was public concern that was raised through the granting of a 24-hour off licence. So it gives an indication of the public feeling in the area. I would also like to highlight that the premises are already open to sell alcohol for 18 hours a day. And whilst I fully accept that, of course, the premises wish to make additional sales, and I think all of us can understand that, but from a public health point of view, we feel that, excuse me, all the evidence shows that later night sales tend to be the higher risk sales, and we should be prioritising preventable harm over a minor sort of, we should be prioritising preventable, we should not be prioritising a small amount of convenience at the expense of preventable and predictable harms that evidence shows extending off-licence hours can lead to. So, so we would recommend maintaining the limit of 1 a.m. in line with many of the other alcohol premises in the area, and prioritise safety and reduction of costs of crime and impact on our services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. We may ask some questions, and I'll also ask the advocate for the applicant if they have any questions, or the applicants themselves. But just going to open the questions now. If there's any questions, Councillor Rice?
Yes, so I've got a few procedural ones that I'd like to kind of clear off before we get on to the actual specifics of the licence. So, and I'd like, if Jane, if there are issues with my understanding of the documentation regarding this, I'd like clarification. In the application, in the licence application, part 4 of the operating schedule, with the provision of late night refreshment, you've ticked supply of alcohol.
At the moment, we're just asking questions of the representative.
Yes, sorry. I'm going to move on to that. You can tell I didn't have much sleep last night with being up coughing. Do nudge me when it's time for me to speak about weird procedural things. Thank you.
So you haven't, do you have any questions for Amanda?
No, it was all very well spoken and understandable. As much as I can understand stuff at the moment.
Yes, could I just, are you aware that there is a sort of dichotomy in that on other committees we're trying to increase the nighttime economy and bring greater revenue into the city, which can then be spent on childcare and things like that. Our nighttime economy lags behind places like Manchester by a very long way. Your comments generally give the impression that you're just generally a bit down on on alcohol. And are you saying, is this a general thing that you would like to apply to other places as well, or is it this that's particularly specific in this case?
Thanks for the question. Public Health don't object to all alcohol licences, and we have no intention of objecting to all alcohol licences. It's nothing personal about alcohol. I consume alcohol from a personal point of view. It is about, from my point of view, we will object to things where we feel there is, whether there are potential impacts on the licensing objectives. So in this case, because Broomhill is predominantly a residential area, and because of I'm struggling for the right words, for the way the public responded to the 24-hour alcohol licence that was granted for the post office last year, residents have clearly made sort of views sort of known around the impacts of sort of noise and nuisance during the night time, and also from we will object where there is evidence that there is a relative where there's an area that's already under stress from alcohol associated crime relative to the rest of the area. And like I reported in my objection, that particular location around 100 metres around the premises suffers from a higher relative alcohol associated crime than the rest of Broomhill. So it's certainly not about being anti-alcohol in any way. It's not about being anti-choice. It's about limiting those higher risk purchases that all the evidence suggests occur in those later sort of early hours periods, and the potential impact to residents.
Okay. Anything else? Just one thing for me, just for clarification. You've referred to evidence, all the evidence, a number of times. Can you be a bit more specific about where that evidence is coming from?
Yeah, it's we tend to in public health. I haven't provided all of the sort of the list of all the references, but I'm more than happy to do that upon request. The evidence that we tend to follow is peer-reviewed, non-alcohol industry-sponsored studies, so independent studies that are independent from the alcohol industry. Academic studies, studies where they sort of look at cause and effect, and they try and look in an objective, peer-reviewed way at the impacts of alcohol. So university, academic research, and organisations like the Institute of Alcohol Studies. That's where the evidence that I'm citing comes from, and like I say, I'm more than happy to provide evidence. An evidence, sort of referenced evidence list if needed.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, it was just a very quick thing. My brain's into gear now, but it was about leading on from the evidence point. Is there any other places that you know of in a similar style of area in that part of the city for which a licence has been extended, if you know of any instances, to 3 a.m, which has led to an increase in antisocial behaviour, alcohol consumption, loitering, noise, disturbances, to back up in a kind of a local understanding way as to the foundations of your objections. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, I can't cite anywhere in Sheffield. To be fair, I didn't look at that, partly from a time and resource point of view. Yeah, this is one small part of my job. So yeah, no, I haven't looked at that, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. I am now going to give opportunity to the applicant, so the advocate. Oh, sorry. Always forget you. Any questions, Sam?
I blended, that's it. You mentioned the Broomhill neighbourhood plan. Is that part of the citywide local plan? I probably should know this, but I don't.
I didn't know until recently either. Several neighbourhoods have a neighbourhood plan. I'm just looking for the title of it. So several neighbourhoods in the city have a neighbourhood plan. This one's titled the Broomhill Neighbourhood Plan. And within that, there is a policy called the Broomhill District Policy. It was updated in 2023, I think, but it's in place until 2036.
Thank you. Yeah, I know of one sort of covering Ecclesall Road, but I didn't know if it was sort of specific to that. So I guess we've got little pockets now across
the city
where we've got these sort of mixed use
neighbourhood plans
areas.
But it's not part of the local plan.
Yeah,
is my limited understanding.
No, I'll go with that then. And you said later night sales of alcohol have the most harm or higher risk. Could you just explain that a little bit more for me in context of the licensing objectives?
Yeah, I think it's from the point of view of it being people who are potentially already under the influence of alcohol, making alcohol purchases, people consuming alcohol. The whole point of an off license is you take the alcohol off premises. People consuming alcohol on the streets and in an unsupervised isn't the right term, but sort of unmanaged environment. So off-licence tends to be a higher risk because on-premises tends to be a managed environment where you have people monitoring situations or can involve services where necessary. But off-licence tends to be obviously an unmanaged environment.
Okay, so opportunity for the applicant or the advocate to ask any question. At this moment, it's just questions you're allowed to ask. You will obviously be given an opportunity to make your full representation at a later stage. So do you have any questions of public health?
Thank you, Chair. It's a very quick question through you, Chair, if I may. I just wanted to ask, there was a 24 hours license granted in this area recently. I know I'm not going to talk about that. I just wanted to ask whether the public health received any complaints either against that venue and against our venue, my client's premises in the past 2 or 3 years, either these two premises. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, was that to public health? Was that to myself?
Yes, please.
Yeah, well, public health wouldn't receive the direct complaints. I would assume that the complaints would probably go into the council more generally, so possibly environmental health. The complaints wouldn't come directly to public health. So I'm unaware if complaints were made regarding either the post office granting that happened last year, or this particular premises. They wouldn't work their way through to public health directly.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we do have representations in writing from Councillor Homeshaw and 3 local residents, but obviously they're not here to make this presentation, but we have seen that and which is given in writing. So now we move on to the applicants, or advocate in this case, to make your case and detail your application.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, before I begin our side of the statement, I would like to provide our sincere apology for delaying the proceedings. I would like to, on behalf of my client, I would like to apologize every single one of you today. And also, I would like to thank the licensing team to organize this remote link for us in the last moment. I'm really grateful for that. Chair, this application from a family business, my client and her husband running these premises for almost 3 years without any issues and or any complaints in the last almost 3 years, Chair. The applicant, my client, she's a personal license holder. Not only that, all her staff are fully trained. In addition, they have completed all the safeguarding. I have provided the certificates to the licensing team. I believe my client bought the originals with them today. They have completed the safeguarding training promoted by the authorities, the current staff, and all of her previous staff as well. If I go to the reason for why we made this application, Chair, this is a small business. We all know they have to compete with the big players these days. They run their business and their livelihood with a small customer base and a small margin. So usually they relies on late night shift workers a lot. On their way back home, people do buy their purchases. Of course, some of them do buy alcohol with their regular purchases, Chair. Especially on like Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, they do receive constant requests from their regular customers, decent customers, to open little longer so they can buy things on the way home. It's happening for some time, Chair. In fact, my client was telling me on the other day, they even try to avoid doing any sort of cleaning or refilling after 1 o'clock in the premises while the premises is closed, because sometimes some of their regular customers come and knock the door to open the shop to get some last minute needs. It is really hard for a small businesses to face this scenario, Chair. So it will not only damage their business, but also it will damage their customer relationship to maintain a viable business. This is the main reason we made this application in December, Chair. That was the reason for this application. It is not to undermine any licensable objectives, or it's not to create any sort of mayhem in the area, because, Chair, this is their livelihood. Their life is dependent on this business. They put all the investment into it. This is their livelihood. They rely on it. If anything happened to their license, they will lose that. So they are aware of it, and they're not going to jeopardize this by undermining any of the licensing objectives. That is not their aim. So I just wanted to stress that this premises is already a late night premises till 1 a.m. They're operating 1 a.m. for 7 days a week. Almost 3 years, Chair, without any issues. This is the clear evidence in front of you to show the reputation of my client. I heard the report from the public health. I greatly respect what the authority says, but at the same time, I would like to say, selling alcohol it's not always cause a problem. It's just irresponsible sale and irresponsible consumption. That's what causes the problem. As long as the businesses do their role, play their part properly, they can promote the licensing objectives, and they can carry out a decent business. I strongly believe that. The evidence in front of you, Chair, clearly shows my client follow the requirements. Even if I go back to the safeguarding trainings and everything, this is not something we did just before the hearing or just before the application. This has been done, if you look at the dates, it's a year and a half, 2 years ago, when she started operating this business. When she received the advice from the authorities, she put all her staff through to complete this course. So therefore, it's a clear evidence in front of you. This is a good behaving business. They have a good reputation. Also, Chair, by granting this application, it's not going to set any precedents here. I'm not comparing any other licensed venues, but what I'm trying to say, the alcohol is available 24/7 in this location. That 24 hours venue is not far from there. By granting this application, we are not going to introduce alcohol after 1 o'clock. No, we're not going to set a precedence there. We have put some additional measures there with this application. I believe my client sent a letter. It's in the application pack. They have enhanced CCTV systems, additional staff trainings, Challenge 25 policy they want to follow. And also, this is something, again, I would like to stress, this is something shows their reputation here. They always employ an additional staff from 7 p.m. from the premises till their closing time. It is not a license condition. This is what they wanted to do to carry out the business without any issues to promote the licensing objectives. Sometimes the good operators don't need a conditions to do something. If the good operators, they will put the measures by themselves proactively to promote the objectives. He is already employing additional staff, minimum of 2 members of staff from 7 p.m. In the premises, one in the shop floor, look after the area, one behind the counter. And moving forward, he is more than happy to take this as a license condition, as minimum of 2 members of staff from 7 p.m. until the closing time. This is something he's already doing it, and he's happy to take this as a condition and in order to give some assurance here. These are on top of the conditions he's already has on his premises license here. So if I go to the objections, we have objection from environmental health local councillors and some residents. We greatly respect their concerns, Chair. We are not undermining the concerns, but I would like to address the concerns. And before that, Chair, I would like to point out a few things. The premises is not in a CIZ. It's not a cumulative impact zone or any special policy zone, as far as we know. There are no other restrictions such as PSPO or any similar sort of restrictions in that area, Chair. According to the current licensing policy, there is no plans to implement EMROs, early morning restriction orders in the borough, even in the current policy or the one before, prior to 2025. And also, Chair, according to the current licensing policy, I saw there is the table with some areas with certain concerns. There are some areas within the borough where there's some concerns about off license, but Broomhill is not one of them. The table clearly shows that, I'm just reading it from the table, Chair. It says Broomhill area, the number of late night refreshment premises in close proximity with patrons causing noise and disturbance when migrating between destinations. This is a concern in the Broomhill area, not convenience stores or off license. The reason I said that, because I notice, again, with great respect, I notice from the representation from the environmental health and the resident objections, there is a confusion, Chair. The concerns were raised regarding late night refreshment, but we didn't apply for late night refreshment. This premises, it's not a late night refreshment venue. We applied for a off sale, it's a convenience store, and not only the concerns about late night refreshment, but also the objections and the concerns are in relation to late night refreshment venues such as pubs or nightclubs. We are not one of them, Chair. The concerns raised in most of the objectors and environmental health, if you look at the nature of the concerns, those concerns are associated with the pubs and nightclubs and restaurants and late night venues, nothing about off license. So if I could address the other concerns raised by the environmental health with great respect, Chair. Under the crime and disorder, there are issues raised about sexual assault, violent crime, ASP issues. Chair, this is a convenience store. Please don't treat us like a pub or nightclub. This is a family-run convenience store, family-friendly store. We don't send out patrons with drunk or any similar nature. We have a regular clientele. At that time, our customers are the late night shift workers because we have a line of groceries and household items as well as alcohol. So people come at that time to buy those things. And we don't serve, this is the main part of the training, we don't serve to any problem makers at that time because that it's not going to create revenue, it's completely opposite, Chair. So the evidence is there for the past 3 years. We haven't had any complaints, any issues because of these premises and how we manage these premises, Chair. There are pubs and other venues in this area, and objections is mainly looks like from those premises. In the past 2 to 3 years, Chair, my client worked with police. There are a number of occasions police came to the store, collected CCTV for any sort of activities outside the premises. In any of these incidents, they have raised any concerns about the premises or made any complaints or dealt with any complaints about the premises there. This is the reason you don't have the police here today. Chair, the police are not against this application, Chair. Also, Chair, I would like to point out while I'm here, again, with great respect to the expertise and the concerns to the other parties, the revised guidance issues under Section 182 of Licensing Act 2003 clearly states 2.1, licensing authorities should look to the police as a main source of advice on crime and disorder. Is clearly there. And also 9.43, the authorities' determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objective and proportionate to what intended to achieve. So there was no complaints, there's no evidence against this premises, against this application. There's no direct evidence, even though this premises has been running till 1 a.m. for the last almost 3 years, 7 days a week. Also, Chair, in some cases, when I go through the concerns, I'm not undermining the public concerns or other authorities in any way, shape, or form. But when I go through the concerns, in some cases, Chair, having a premises open late night with the lights on, CCTV cameras still rolling, when someone working on the shop floor, keeping an eye on the area, if anything happens, can help and assist the police. It is a deterrent for some of the issues raised in those concerns. So it's the good premises who can work with the authorities with a good track record can actively eliminate some of the issues if we are able to trade a little longer, Chair. In addition, again, with great respect, that when I look at some of the representation from the residents, there is again a slight confusion. I don't like to use the word confusion. I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to undermine the objection. But some of the concerns looks like people trying to treat this as a planning application. It's not a planning application, Chair. It's a license application. Under the planning legislation, the premises can open and trade 24/7. If my clients want to open the shop 24 hours tomorrow, he can do that. She can do that because the premises currently has a planning permission to trade 24 hours as a retail business. In terms of footfall, number of people, and opening hours, etc., is already been dealt under a separate legislation, and it's been identified as a suitable venue to trade 24 hours. We are here for alcohol matter, and we don't have any direct evidence against the application to restrict the time. Again, Chair, I'm going back to the Section 182. The 10.15 shops, stores, and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sale of alcohol for consumption of the premises at any time when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there's a good reason based on the licensing objective for restricting the hours, Chair. So you don't have any direct evidence against my application to restrict this application, Chair, with great respect. Finally, Chair, the Licensing Act 2003 is a new legislation. It's a powerful tool. There is a review process as part of this legislation. The license can be reviewed at any time by any parties. It's a straightforward application. And this license, if you grant this today, it's going to be a lot more easier to review because it will have the conditions, measures, and everything, Chair. While you have all these facilities, Chair, without any direct evidence against my application, against my client's business and the application, refusing this application, not appropriate and it's not proportionate, Chair. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Now open to questions. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you for that presentation. It was very clear and detailed. I'm encouraged by you saying that there will be 2 members of staff at all time. I think that's an important safety consideration. And it is a family-run business, and the extra eyes on the street and everything is well spoken of. I want family-run businesses to prosper. But what I'd like to ask is 2 extra staff. Is it economically viable, two staff going for two extra hours in the middle of the night? Who do you see as your customers, your clients' customers? What sort of footfall is there between 1 and 3 in the morning? Have your clients done any research on the sort of footfall that's going to be there? Do you expect your customers to take their alcohol home or drink it in a local park? And will this 2 hours in the middle of the night, make a material difference to the income of this business? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm glad you asked that question. It's a very good question. Thank you, Councillor. If I missed anything, please let me know. I'll come back. I had a detailed conversation regarding this application with my clients since I took over almost a week ago. The reason behind this, see, if Councillor, I know you are aware of it. Alcohol sale only gives a small margin of profit. If they're going to sell alcohol between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, just rely on the alcohol. It's 2 staff members, minimum of 2 staff members. They're not going to make any money to pay the wages. It's clear, crystal clear. So the reason they are saying that, they make most of the revenue from the late night shoppers who return from the shift works. Probably you know a lot better than the local area than I do, Councillor. They rely heavily on the late night shift workers, and they might not open every single day. It's like certain days in pattern. So the Wednesday, Friday, Saturday is constantly, they get constant requests from those people to come and buy products, mainly groceries, and some of them do buy alcohol. The reason they are confident to open and not jeopardize their good track record is because they knew which people they are coming to the store and which clients are not going to come to the store, because they don't allow lots of people in the past to maintain the standard. So if they're just selling alcohol, that's not worth it. They won't be able to do it. They are selling groceries as well as alcohol, and these customers make decent purchases. It is viable for business to keep minimum 2 people. And if I may, Chair, I would like to add one more thing. They, in principle, don't like to serve people through night hatch. As business owners, they wanted to take people into the store, judge the people, see the people face to face, and serve the customers, rather than serving through the hatch and pushing all the problems to street for the police to deal with. This is something they discussed with the police as well in the past. From the conversation, that's what I had. So yes, having 2 people, it is costly, it is expensive. Minimum 2 people throughout the night from 7 p.m. till 3 a.m. if the license granted. But they will get clientele to purchase grocery as well as alcohol to maintain the cost.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rice.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask a few very quick questions on, as I said earlier, the procedurals of the application. And as I said, Jane, please do correct me if I've got anything incorrect. So on the application, on page 14 of the agenda pack, under Part 4 operating schedule, the supply of alcohol has been ticked, and it is to fill in box J, which I can see that you have done with the extended licensing hours request table on item J. But the line below, it says, in all cases, complete boxes K, L and M, and that is for all of the Part 4 operating schedule boxes. Above that, I note on pages 22 and 23 and 24 that there is no document, there is no text supplied either on the adult entertainment or services that give concern to the in respect of children. The generalised hours premises are open to the public, or, and this is the one that is concerning to me, Table M, which is additional steps you intend to take to promote the 4 licensing objectives as a result of the proposed variation. That being general steps, the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Given the representations by public health, the public health team, the local councillor and residents, I am slightly concerned that there has been no text filled in Table M. Could you explain the lack of mitigating steps as requested in Table M?
Just to clarify on the late night refreshment, I do believe that was a mistake on the application, so they're not seeking late night refreshment, it's just the extension of alcohol hours. And that was clarified by one of the officers, because that was noted as well by the service. Is that correct, Mr. Rajesh? Have I said that right?
Yes, that is right. That is right.
I think as well.
Thank you.
Go on. Sorry, I was just going to say not to assume, but I'd imagine that the position is you don't foresee any risk to the licensing objectives by the proposed variation of extending by 2 hours. Is that why it was left? I think you're satisfied that the conditions currently on the licence address any concerns. Would that be fair to say?
Sorry, is that directing to me?
Sorry, yes, to you.
Oh, sorry. If I answer, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question fully. Can I answer the councillor's concern and come back to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. That's a valid question, councillor. I haven't joined. The application was made by my client directly without any help. It's filled by them. I only joined in this. I involved in this process a week ago to face the subcommittee hearing. The application was filled by my client with limited knowledge in this process. So that is the reason there was some mistakes made in filling the forms. She didn't receive any help. She filled it by herself. But I totally understand your concern, Chair. It's a valid concern. They do have some conditions already on the licenses, strict conditions about all the record keepings, trainings, and safeguarding issues, and CCTVs and everything. They were working with the police, and I believe there was a letter sent out by my client at a later stage listing some additional measures. Again, I wasn't involved at that stage either. I only involved in this process probably about 10 days ago. So that is the main reason the form wasn't filled properly and completely in first place, councillor. Hope I have answered it, and I'm more than happy to give any further clarification. Sorry, officer, I don't know whether I answered your question as well, if you want to add.
That makes it very clear, and if I'm sure I will, if anything comes up regarding Table M, that I will be willing to read it. The second point is we've been supplied with scans of the training documentation and the certificates of those employees of the business. A number of them absolutely fine, but I do notice that the resolution and the readability of the certificate for Kadoru Akash from the Virtual College regarding the training for safer recruitment is illegible. There is zero ability for me to identify the certificate number, and it's quite clear that there is remaining the watermark that the certificate is a preview rather than a certified copy. I do notice, I do remember you saying that the originals of the certificates are provided, so if the applicants could get those certificates out for me to be able to see the originals, that would be much appreciated. Whilst they do that, I am going to move on to my final question regarding some of the stuff that you, in your answer to Councillor Whitaker, regarding the logic about opening later. You said that due to the small margins on alcohol, that the opening purely for the sale of alcohol, it would not be a financially consistent decision, and that this extension of opening hours would be largely to facilitate the purchasing of groceries or other sundries by shift workers. You have also mentioned that the planning kind of conditions around a small shop does not restrict the opening hours, and that under planning law they have the ability to open 24 hours a day, but yet the sale of alcohol, something which the local residents, the local councillor, but also the public health team have indicated may be an issue, is being extended until 3 a.m. Given that the evidence and your reasoning for the extension in licensing hours is predominantly about the sale of groceries and sundries to shift workers, was there any consideration around extending the opening hours of the shop until 3 a.m, something that does not require, as I understand it, a application to extend the license, but restricting and restricting the sale of alcohol between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m, so that you both got the increased sales and business from shift workers, but not the risk to public health and antisocial behaviour that comes with the sale of alcohol?
Again, Councillor, it's a great question. Yes, that was discussed. I think they might have tried as well. It is actually going to create a damage to the business rather than any help. It's because the people who come and buy the products from the store, they do purchase groceries, where our biggest margin is, and some alcohol. So there are two problems if you just open the store without alcohol in the 2 hours, Councillor. First, it's maintaining it is very, very difficult. Practically, it's hard. It's because, you have to cover up the alcohol. You have to say no to people who are trying to buy alcohol with the grocery stuff. So in terms of operational side, it is difficult to maintain. Second thing, it will badly, this is a major issue my client has, it will badly damage their relationship between the customers and the business, because they have competitors doing the same thing for 24 hours. So when they refuse open the shop and refuse certain items for some of the customers, then they will lose the customers. They rely on these people, they will lose the customers. So in terms of operational wise, it is difficult. They have to cover up, they have to separate the alcohol shelves in different locations to do the 2 additional hours. And second issue, the customer relationship is going to be completely shattered, and they will end up losing the customers, losing the business, losing the livelihood. So they're just asking this to do a decent business, Councillor. So to maintain the clientele at the same time.
So I just like, so that this is on the recording, I don't quite understand the logic, because given that you have stated that the customers who will be coming in between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. are respectful, have got a long-standing relationship with the shop owners, obviously have been wanting to buy kind of groceries there, sundries there for a very long time, but yet the relationship isn't strong enough for the owners and the staff members to turn around and say, yes, you can buy the groceries, but no, you can't buy the alcohol. If that kind of mismatch in logic doesn't quite make sense to me, that if they were such loyal and well-respecting customers, that they would not, by extension, understand the limitations on the sale of alcohol that I would see as a reasonable adjustment. But I think that covers everything that I'd like to ask, and I'll let others have a turn.
Can I add one more thing, Councillor, if I may? Sorry. Yes, I understand your point, Councillor, and where you're coming. Where is the concern is. Again, the loyalty and everything is also depend on the service, Councillor. And sometimes when people coming down from work tired, they're trying to buy something, and the staff refusing to sell and explaining the legal and the licensing requirement at that time of the day, and when they are trying to go home, it's very hard as the business owners and the small business owners. It's very, very hard, and the risk is there. It's a livelihood. It's going to be on the line. So that is why, if they can't provide all the services and limiting the services for a limited hours, operationally is a problem. Relationship-wise is a problem. If small businesses losing one customer is a bigger percentage loss, not like big players. So it's a small business, a family business. That is why. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from Sam?
Thank you, Chair. Do you know what proportion of sales alcohol forms in the business?
When I speak to them, I think it's about 15 to 25%. But if you need exact, I need to talk to the clients in more detail.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you. That's great. Have any of the local ward councillors spoken to the business, sort of raised any issues or concerns with them about their current operation?
Nobody raised any concerns. Residents, local councillors, not even police, because police do visit the premises to get some details, so they've never had any issues.
Thank you. I was going to ask that as well. That's really helpful. And just finally, any issues with the premises or in the sort of immediate vicinity, early hours of the morning? So any drunk and disorderly, any drunk people attempting to come in and cause problems, anything like that experience? No? You're shaking your heads.
No, it's because that is the reason they employ a second person on the shop floor near the door. They normally don't allow any problem makers. That's some advice they received a long time ago from the police. So they employ somebody from 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So not to allow anybody. So they create a reputation. Those people are not going to be served. So that is why they reduce this all along.
Yeah, so it's just sort of head off straight from the issue. They can't even go in and then sales are refused. No, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. I think we've been quite comprehensive with our questions, so I've got no further questions. Everything that might have asked has been answered adequately. Okay, and now going to give an opportunity to Public Health to see if we've got any questions.
Sorry. Councillor Rice asked the questions that I was going to ask, so I've heard the responses from that, but I would appreciate the opportunity to just sum up shortly, which I think I get anyway, don't I? So.
That is the next thing, is for yourself to sum up.
Okay, I shall move straight on. Yes, listening to everything that's been said today, I completely appreciate that the applicants would like to make additional sales. I would also like to second some of the concerns that Councillor Rice made around respectfully not being entirely convinced of the logic around opening with an extended alcohol licence as opposed to just opening for extended hours for groceries if the predominant sales would be to shift workers, people working in the hospitals, sort of travelling back through the area at night. I would like to reiterate the South Yorkshire Police reported crime statistics that relative to the rest of Broomhill, that immediate 100-metre area, does have higher relative reports of violence and sexual assault, the latter particularly related to that Peel Street taxi rank area. I would like to also reiterate that my role in public health is to advocate the balancing of negating predictable and preventable harm, which comes from alcohol, and is the reason why alcohol is licensed in the first place, because it is associated with the harms that I've outlined, and balancing that with already generous hours that the premises is licensed for, and that limiting, keeping a limit of 1 AM is a very minor limit to convenience, which people who are making planned purchases en route home from shift work could easily plan around and make those purchases at other times of the day when it's a less high risk time for alcohol to be in the environment. I would also like to highlight that those shift workers travelling home through the area should also be have the right to be able to travel through that area free of risk and harm from people under the influence of alcohol who may be consuming alcohol in and around the premises. And I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, opportunity for the applicant or advocate to sum up, please. If you want to just sum up your application.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, Chair, we have presented the good track record of my clients and my clients' reputation. We have provided the evidence for that, and the good record is an evidence itself. And we explained the reasons for these applications, and with great respect, I listened to the concerns raised by the councillor and the EH. There are difficulties to manage the premises, Chair, with limited facilities, and it will break the customer relationship and the customer satisfaction. And small businesses is a very, very, very high risk. And from business point of view, when someone rely on their livelihood, this is a risky matter. And also, I would like to point out with all due respect to all the expertise in the room, that revised guidance 182, section 182, 10.15 says that the shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide alcohol, sale of alcohol for consumption of the premises at any time when the premises retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there's a good reason based on the licensing objective and for restricting those hours. Yeah. And also the objections received from all the parties, the objections associated with the nature of the concerns from different types of venues, the drunkenness and behavior and abuse and all of this is relates to public houses and restaurants and nightclubs. This is not one of the premises, and the premises is not in any sort of restricted area, and police have made any objections because they are satisfied with the business and the clients, because they do have some regular connections and relations with the business for different needs. And there is no direct evidence against my client, Chair. And there is a review process in place, and there are additional measures, and it's going to be a conditions in our license. So if anything happen in the future, it can be reviewed easily. So when you have all these safety measures in place without an evidence, and also as the local authority, Chair, with great respect, businesses like this is good for the economy, good for the community. These are the businesses should be encouraged. So with that note, I'm sincerely requesting to consider all these matters, and this application should be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now just leave the license officer to give us the options available to us this morning, Jane?
Yes, of course. So the options available to the committee this morning are to grant the premises licence in terms requested, to grant the premises licence with conditions, or to reject the whole or part of the application.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just just to add, just before we move on, to say that Councillor Malachi Haby, who was going to be representing Councillor Brian Holmeshaw for objections, has just sent his apologies that he couldn't attend the meeting at the last minute due to a family issue.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Right, we're now going to move into a private session, so we're going to ask you to leave the meeting while we deliberate in private. Take advice if you need to.
Councillor Coon, the certificates that I mentioned earlier, if you would like to leave them there, and I'll just have a look at whilst the private session is ongoing, just to make sure that things line up.
Thank you for attending the meeting, and to the advocate for making a very detailed representation. We have come to a decision, and we have decided to agree to grant the licence as applied for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Just for the benefit of the recording and for people that aren't here, the decision, as the Chair said, is granted as applied for. Now, what that means, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's granted forever. If there are issues that can be evidenced, it may come back to the committee and we can look at other steps to take. Hopefully that's not the case, and wish you every success with it, and do appreciate everyone taking the time to attend this morning. The local residents and the local council do have the right of appeal and public health against the decision, given that they were opposing the application. So should they appeal, it's within 21 days to the magistrates court, but hopefully, you know, as I said, that there aren't any issues, but we'll confirm the decision in writing to everybody following the hearing. But again, thank you everyone for your time and representations this morning. You are.
Thank you.